Welcome back to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches. And in this week's episode, we're reviewing the scariest thing for Halloween. Black and white movies. I'm Noah.
And I'm Richard.
And in today's episode, we're talking about Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original, the 1958? 56 black and white film.
Yes, it was...
Not the 1970... I think it's 78 then.
78, yeah.
Not the 1970s version, the original version.
It's kind of interesting. So, directed by Don Siegel.
Uh-huh.
Written by Daniel Mainwaring, Jack Finney, and Richard Collins.
Yep.
All right, names that are just lost to history, except for Hollywood buffs. Starring Kevin McCarthy, who is one of those actors you recognize when you see his face, which you never know his name.
Nope. This is...
Dana Winter and Larry Gates, among others. Well, maybe it's a generational thing.
It has to be a generational thing.
Yeah, I've seen Kevin McCarthy in a lot of stuff, and I've never known his name.
So he looked like every good old boy from, the, what is that called? The Mid-Atlantic accent, whatever. The old radio, old-time.
Oh, gotcha.
He looks like a good old boy from the 50s. That's which is essentially what he is in the movie.
Yes.
So I mean, they all kind of blend together,
So we have this. If you have not seen Invasion of the Body Snatchers, if this is one that's been lost to antiquity, I highly recommend that you watch it. So
okay.
Dr. Miles Bennell returns to his small-town practice to find several of his patients suffering the paranoid delusion that their friends and relatives are imposters.
Yes.
He is initially skeptical, especially when the alleged doppelgangers are able to answer detailed questions about their victims' lives, but he is eventually persuaded that something odd has happened and determines to find out what is causing this phenomenon. Now, this is the IMDb synopsis written by Mark Thompson, right? Let's give the man credit. It's an excellent synopsis.
It's a very, very concise and well-constructed synopsis, yes.
And I suggested that we do this movie, that we do this for Halloween, for October.
It's October,
It's
October.
We're going to do a bunch of these.
We're doing some Halloween stuff, if you couldn't tell.
I'd never seen it.
So I had never seen this version of it.
Okay.
I have seen the remake, and it was well over a decade ago. I think it was just on at a friend's house. And my weird thing about horror movies nowadays, like I'm almost bored by horror movies. It takes a really good horror movie or scary movie to actually get me anxious. And I like it when they do. I see it as I'm challenging the movie almost. So in terms of any like scare or creepy or eerie factor that this movie might have had, it didn't really affect me that much. But, again, this might be old, what's the opposite of rose-tinted glasses? The opposite of nostalgia? Childhood trauma. It might be the childhood trauma from the remake talking, but that one, I almost don't want to go back and rewatch it because I remember it terrified me.
All right, so
I've seen clips of it since, and I'm less scared of it, but it still gives me that like anxious, like, ooh, that's good. That's good. Even though I know how the movie ends, and I know the big twist at the end of the remake, I love the remake in retrospect, and I love everything that I've seen about it. So this was cool to go back and see the original.
So I've never seen the remake. I remember when the remake came out, and I knew then that it was a remake.
Yes.
And I don't know why I never saw it, and I honestly don't know why I've never seen this movie prior to when I watched it for tonight.
Okay.
And the interesting thing this movie had me on the edge of my seat for a while.
Yeah?
I'm not a fan of horror movies.
Okay.
All right. I'm not a fan of jump scares.
Yeah.
And I used to be okay with it, but the older I've gotten, the more that tight suspense just makes my skin crawl.
Really? Okay.
I don't know why.
I got none of that from this.
Well,
I'll get into that in a little bit.
I did from this.
Okay. All right.
Now, so it just occurred to me now. I mean, I didn't think of this before this moment. I grew up, I was young in the 70s.
Yeah.
And on WGN TV in Chicago on Saturday nights at 10:30 was this movie channel called Creature Features.
Yes.
And Creature Features, for anybody who's from Chicago, you can hear the music playing in your head. You know the picture that comes on the screen, and they would show horror films, and they were almost always in black and white.
Okay.
Occasionally, on a good Saturday night, you get Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein or Abbott and Costello Meet Dracula, but most of the time it was a horror movie. So this evoked for me all of Creature Features from Saturday night from my childhood.
Okay.
And there is an art to storytelling in black and white film.
Yes, there is.
That is lost. It's lost in color and it's lost in CGI.
Yes, it is.
And this movie had all of it. And And so...
Oh, yeah. I love seeing color photos of black and white set. Have you seen the set of the original Addams Family?
I haven't, but I do know that the colors are garish because that's what shows up.
It's pastels and bright, and it's all the stuff that you would never like. Most women are wearing green lipstick in black and white films because red just looks black.
Right.
Right. So like to give it the hint that it's not pure black, that it looks more like. To indicate it's just an art form that is pretty much lost.
Yes, you are correct.
It's fantastic. I loved the craft that went into this movie, which is kind of what I was watching and I was observing. The thing and my big thing, I love continuity-wise. This is incredible. How disheveled he gets over the course of the film.
Yes. Oh, it's interesting you should say that.
He gets more, the main character of this film gets more disheveled as it goes. And I would not attribute that to old black and white films. Because I was surprised at how much of the detail came through. Now, I think where we watched it on Amazon, it's been enhanced a little bit, which helps. It looked like it was a little too like perfectly clear, like it's been enhanced a couple times just to improve.
Possible.
But
the transition from celluloid to digital.
Yeah, exactly.
You might as well use the technology to make things clearer.
Make things a little bit clearer. But even then, like obviously his hair goes from nice classic 50s slicked back to hanging in his face, and he's getting a bit of scruff.
Well,
over the course because he's staying up.
That's interesting. So if you haven't seen it, you follow this course of Dr. Miles Benel over 2 or 3 days where he's staying awake, and the movie is a flashback.
Yes, and so he's telling this story,
right? And so you see him in his disheveled state, and then the story begins when he's this clean-cut all-American doctor, and then watch him progress through, and I had the same thought. It was interesting watching, because it took so long to get to the disheveled state.
Yes,
that I kept waiting. When does this happen?
Yes. And they slowly incorporate it. It's just an amazing example of continuity in a film.
Yes, that
when you notice it, you're like, whoa.
Well, and it's an attention to detail that I think we may have a bias against old movies that maybe they didn't think that way and do that when in fact they did. Yeah, exactly. Right. Or maybe you just never noticed that they did. Yeah, that's completely possible. So it's I really enjoyed this, and I do enjoy the old filmmaking. I enjoy learning about the creativity, the behind the scenes. There's a Charlie Chaplin roller skating sequence that is filmed on a balcony. Yeah, I know the one. You know the one? I know the one, yeah. When it's really not filmed on a balcony, it's all matte painting. Exactly. And the matte paintings were incredible. It was. And
it's always a joy to look at two people driving in a car and see the projector screen behind them.
Yes.
It's like,
and this movie has it.
It has it.
Yep.
It's great.
So I think the thing about this, I was not able to watch this movie in one sitting. There's just time constraints.
Yeah.
Which was actually pretty good because the horror movies, I have to get up and walk away from them.
Okay.
All right. And so I finished this whole thing, and I honestly didn't think a 1956 black and white horror film would keep me on the edge of my seat the way it did. I didn't think it would make my heart race the way it did. Mm-hmm. I knew the story. Even though I had never seen the movie, I knew the story, and I knew the story because of the remake came out when I was a kid. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So,
but on that note, though, it is different from the remake.
Well, I have to watch the remake.
So here's the thing. So first off, if you're going to comment on this, let's keep the remake. If we bring up the remake, let's keep it spoiler free.
I can't spoil anything. I've never seen it.
I'm talking for comments.
Okay.
For comments.
Oh, gotcha.
Keep your comments spoiler free for the remake. But I think because of the remake, I had thoughts about this film, and I realized, this is not. It wasn't a 1-to-1 remake in terms of plot. The plot's different.
Now this makes me want to watch the remake all the more.
I think first off, I think the remake is fantastic.
Okay.
From what I remember, I'll have to watch again. I'll have to rewatch it, but specifically for the ending. But
does Donald Sutherland play the Dr. Bennell character?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, it is Donald Sutherland, which is ironic because we just did MASH a few weeks ago.
Right.
That we're talking about. Yeah. But
Sutherland was an enormously talented actor.
And he's good in it. Yep. He's good in it because, of course. But I was really kind of surprised at the end of this movie that they turn around and either they believed him by the end of the movie. Spoilers for the original. That the doctors and the police officers eventually are like, oh wait, he's not crazy.
Right.
They believe him
and take action on it.
Right. And I half expected the doctor listening to the story to be one of the body snatchers. That's what I thought. The minute he sat down and the minute he starts telling the story, I was like, okay, so the doctor who's listening to him is already gonna have been got.
I was waiting for
that reveal. So it took me completely by surprise when this movie ends almost on a happy note in comparison. You're just
hopeful.
Hopeful. It's a hopeful note. Yes. And it's just like, and then I think about it, I'm like, it's 1956. Okay, that explains it.
Wow,
I legit expected, but that's what people would do nowadays. That's what a horror movie would do nowadays. So I'm wondering if I'm just so biased from modern horror tropes that I did not expect this to have the possibility, because I was so expecting that to be the twist at the end of the movie that I'm watching the whole movie and I'm like, literally everything he's doing is for no purpose. All his escape attempts, everything he's doing to hide from the body snatchers and all this is for no point. And now I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh crap, like my expectations were subverted because I went in with this expectation that this is how the movie was going to end. I was like, what?
In typical fashion of you and I just diving into talking about a movie, the one thing that we never do is we never provide our audience with like a synopsis of the plot.
I think you did right
here. Missing a lot of details.
I mean, of course, we always assume people either watch it or pick up on it.
Or you should go watch it.
Watch it.
We are talking about, and I have to give this background simply because what really caught my attention in this movie is not understandable if you don't understand the basic what's going on in the movie.
Yeah.
An alien race drops seeds on Earth that create pods, and the pods duplicate a human body. This is how the species recreates, right? And it basically creates a doppelganger. And then somehow the movie never tells. Yeah. The original person gets off.
Yeah.
And whether the doppelganger kills them or something else happens, the movie doesn't tell. It almost doesn't matter. But the human species is slowly being replaced, and they're being replaced by a creature that has no emotions, no feelings, does not feel love, desire, ambition, or faith. Ironically, the only thing that they feel, and this is one of those, I want to say it's a flaw in the storytelling, but I'm not certain. They feel threatened by people who don't want to be duplicated and erased.
And that's where it was almost a little confusing. I think it's more, and I think that's one of the, not to get too again into spoilers, I think the reboot explains the process a little bit more.
Okay.
Basically it kind of just essentially what you just said, the plot holes that come from it, they kind of patch that up.
They patch that, okay.
And if I remember, the Body Snatchers operate differently. But yeah, I was like, okay, plants, okay, cool. And I was really confused because I thought they said that they just take over the human when they fall asleep. But I also saw them making the duplicates. So for a minute there, I was kind of confused. I was like, so wait, do they just replace the person or do they take over the person? Which is it, movie?
Well, the interesting thing, and I read a little blurb on this today, and I love this stuff, especially since we're talking 1956. Yeah. This is so long ago. But the actual idea for the pods came from a prop master.
Oh, of course.
There
was so much detail in that. I was like, this is dope. This is old school prop making.
It was.
Stuff that very few people are doing nowadays.
Because that was just paper mache.
Exactly.
Right? It was exactly. And the pods were probably about...
Yeah, maybe like a fiberglass type of thing.
No, it was probably newspaper and flour and water.
Was. Yeah, maybe chicken wire.
Yeah, possibly. Well, to get the shape. But so they make these things. This article said that the most difficult part was creating the bodies inside the pods when they're showing the partial, right?
Yeah.
And so the actors all had to have the body mold made.
Yes.
Right.
I was looking at that. I was like, okay, so they cast these
yes,
people.
They did. And they said that you think about the technology that we have now to make those body castings.
Yes.
Back in the 50s, it was nowhere near.
Near.
And they said that they were breathing through straws through their noses and their mouths.
Oh yeah.
And like the prop masters were tapping them on the back, and it was the actress Dana Winter who said they tapped her on the back and said, "We're going to lunch. We'll be back in an hour."
Yeah. Yeah. It makes sense, yeah.
I'm far too claustrophobic to go through something like that for that long, But so it was just fun. I mean, half the fun of looking at these things is that.
Yeah. Oh, the old school set design, the old school, the extras for some of the crowd scenes, so well coordinated.
Yes,
it worked really well.
So. I'm watching the movie and I get to one point where I'm like, I just looked up and I just said, "Oh, this is it. This is the movie right here. This is the movie in a nutshell."
Okay.
And this is what this movie is all about. I love science fiction, and the reason why I love science fiction is that well-made science fiction tells a story, but it makes a point about humanity.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
And this is why I like Star Trek better than Star Wars.
Yes.
This is why I've always liked Star Trek better than Star Wars. Sorry, Star Wars fans, but I just do. Because Star Wars is more cowboy action and Star Trek is more thought.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And I think I've said that before. This is nothing new.
A long time ago, but yeah.
Yeah. So Miles, the doctor, makes this observation to his girlfriend, and what is her name? Becky.
Yeah.
All right. In my practice, I've seen how people have allowed their humanity to drain away. Only it happens slowly instead of all at once. They didn't seem to mind.
Yeah.
And Becky says, but just some people, Miles. And he says, all of us, a little bit. We harden our heart and grow callous. Only when we have to fight to stay human do we realize how precious it is to us, how dear. And then he says, first our town, than all the towns around us. It's a malignant disease, a disease spreading across the entire country. They're reborn into a world where everybody is the same.
Now, there's a second thing as well to this.
Yes.
Which I think is why it's well written, because you can take it that way.
This is a direct quote from the script.
I know,
right. Okay.
I know, and I know where you're going. And this is proving the point that it's well written. But think about when this was made, and then think about that quote, because I had a similar thought. It was a little more nihilistic and pessimistic.
Okay, all right.
This one right here, the first our town, then all the towns across us, it's a malignant disease. This was made in the 1950s. What was going on in the 1950s?
There was a lot going on in the 1950s.
I'm thinking about the Red Scare.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
You know, it's in the the very beginning of the Cold War, you know?
So,
Korea.
okay.
So I was like, oh, is this a communism allegory? Because that's funny.
I think so here's the beautiful part about this.
Yeah.
We painstakingly avoid politics on Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches.
Yes, we do. We do. I'm pointing it out because of the time period that this was made. Not to get into the politics of it.
We're not going to get into the politics of it. When I read this, both when I heard it on screen,
yes,
and when I thought about how much this applies in 2024 as much as it applied in 1956.
Yes, that's good.
Because this is a commentary on human nature. Yes, on humanity.
Yes.
It's not a commentary on right versus left.
No.
But the
No.
But the beautiful part about this is that there's meat on the bone.
Yes, there's enough meat
for the right and the left.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. And that's what makes it about humanity.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's what I love.
I agree.
Because a script like this, a well-written science fiction script like this,
yes,
challenges your assumptions, challenges your
does.
Beliefs, makes you consider the other side.
Oh, absolutely.
Regardless of what side you're on.
Yes.
And that's what just intellectually makes science fiction so much fun.
So good. So good. Yes. And specifically we harden our heart, we grow callous. Only when we have to fight to stay human do we realize how precious it is to us, how dear it is.
Yes.
That I think is the strongest point. I just found it funny that this was the second part about our town and we're all end up the same was written right in the middle. Well, not right in the middle, right at the beginning of the Cold War. You know, I found that really funny. You know,
I hadn't considered that while we were
but hold on. So they're reborn into a world where everybody is the same. I mean, can you think of a more 1950s way of describing communism?
Yeah, no,
it's so
I get
funny.
it. I get it.
It was so funny.
I get it.
It was just a funny line.
It's interesting.
We took it in two different directions. You took
we did, but most people, because of our age difference, would assume that those directions would have been swapped, and I'm kind of amused that they weren't.
It was really amusing when I heard that.
Right.
I just made that connection.
Well, it's just, this is one of the things that I absolutely love about science fiction. I've read a ton of science fiction. I appreciate good science fiction writers.
I do enjoy science fiction, generally more than fantasy, but I do. Fiction.
Most definitely, most definitely. So, so the interesting thing, this did nothing to alleviate or change my I'm uncomfortable with horror flicks.
Yeah,
and I've seen a lot of horror flicks, and I just. But this one is very definitely horror of the mind.
Yes, and I appreciate that.
Well, that is the most difficult for me to watch.
Okay.
Is the horror of the mind. I can handle a Jason hacker slasher flick.
Yeah.
Far easier than horror of the mind.
Well, that just I watched that to see the special effects. I watched a slasher flick to see the
bloodbath.
The bloodbath.
Yeah.
But like and we're reviewing Alien. Love Alien so much. That's going to be coming up this month as well. And I really like the remake of this.
We are dedicating October to just
Halloween.
We're just gonna.
So yeah, I'm excited to do some more of these. You know what I can't do though? It's ironic. Horror movies, I can usually steal. You know, even if I'm like, oh, getting anxious and like oh no, I can usually go, it's a movie, and then that usually,
Right.
you know, it's that thing. I cannot do that with video games. For whatever reason, I can't do it with video games.
Really?
Like horror games,
Mm-hmm.
can't do them. Can't do them. Won't touch them. Won't touch them. Hate them. Hate them. And here's the thing: the more indie they are, the more independent, the less AAA, AA they are, the more I can't do them. You know?
Really?
Yeah. The lower the investment. I'm gonna call time real quick. Tag back.
You know, ultimately, if I would love to know how many people have seen in either of the Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but specifically the 56. Is this one that's been lost to the ages? And
I don't know.
I would say this: watch it. It's free on Amazon if you have Amazon. It was free, wasn't it? Yeah, I think.
I had to rent it.
Oh, did I rent it?
I don't know. I had to rent it.
Yeah.
And maybe you had it.
No.
I don't know.
What? You don't sign in on my account?
No, I have a separate one.
Oh,
but
gotcha.
It's Prime. Anyway, I'll talk after.
Yeah. Well, this is the way the
I might need your
conversations
Amazon.
go. Yeah. I would say watch it. It's fun.
It actually is.
It is
like,
a-
okay,
it's
so
a
here's
really
the
good
thing.
movie.
Even though I wasn't like scared by this movie, and I
Mhm.
wasn't, I ultimately was. I still had fun, and it's a good movie.
Yes, it is.
It's
very
it's
good.
very well acted. And
Yes, it is.
It's incredibly well made. I really liked it. So
I did too. Invasion of the Body Snatchers, good. I'm looking forward to seeing the sequel.
yeah, should we do that next year?
Next year.
Next year?
I think next
Next
year.
October?
Yeah, next
All right,
October
so,
we put that on
subscribe
the
for
list. Right.
But yeah, have you seen either of them? Have you seen both? If you have seen both, which do you prefer? For non-spoiler reasons, please and thank you. And yeah, last thoughts.
Well, you know what? If you're going to do a spoiler, just put it at the top, and then
Yeah.
I'll know not to read it. Noah will respond to it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Final thoughts? I had never seen this movie. I wanted to see it. I'm glad that we did.
I am actually.
And,
This was
you know,
fun. This was fun.
And so I am looking forward to seeing the remake. And
Yeah.
this is good.
All right. So, thank you for tuning in to Pork Chops, Rice, and Peaches, this first Halloween episode of the month. Leave your comments and your thoughts down below. Subscribe for more. And thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
So I think this is the third time she's tried to call me. Time? Yes? Hi, I'm in the middle of filming. I saw you call multiple times, so I was like, I should probably take this in case she like is stranded. No, I'm good. I'm good. I had a question, and then I forgot you were at D&D. So we're good. She hung up on me. This is going at the end of the video.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, I hope so. That'd be good. So